now the Auditor General is asking the CBK and the President as well as to why we don't have a second Deputy Governor. We only have 7. And the fact that that has never happened for the past couple years is exactly what she is questioning. And she's saying, why do we have that when in reality the President who's supposed to appoint the 8 is the one who's been seen to break that law? So what next, therefore, in terms of how she's going to comment on the results of the banking regulator? What next? Because that is a question that the former Auditor General has never asked when they're looking at the results of the CBK or the banking regulator within the country. Is it a case of the President and what we've seen so far overlooking the rule of law? They've been put on the spotlight. So the question is going to be, what next? If something comes out, that's exactly what we're going to look at. Good. Let's move away from that, because that will make what is sort of a damper or anomaly within the Kenyan economy, with people who are supposed to really stick to the rule of law. Working on it is a deeper story, and something that we've seen from the Jubilee administration and what is essentially the Kenyan economic sphere. Fine. Let's talk about Bitcoin this morning, and I want to point you out to what has been a biggest gain for Bitcoin in over the couple days. Let's look at that data that we have for you now before we see exactly what it is that we're talking about. Look at that. Yes, yesterday we did have it for the very first time since 2018 going beyond the 17K mark. Fine, but that's not it, because it went beyond that. It touched the 18K mark, and now 20K doesn't seem to be very far away for Bitcoin, as it's now considered a better hedge fund than what has been traditionally a hedge fund for most people, gold. All right, let's look at what Bloomberg is talking about it. Now, it's saying that rocketing Bitcoin stakes claims pandemic refuge for Brave. That's a big one, really, to look at it when you're talking about it. And they're saying the Bitcoin is seizing the spotlight from gold as a hedge against risks such as a further dollar weakens on a pickup in inflation after widening its performance lead over the yellow metal. Now, let's go to the next one. The cryptocurrency, approximately 150% jump in 2020, puts the digital coins price relative to gold at the highest in almost 3 years. Now, data compiled by Bloomberg shows now that's quite an important talking point, because, well, we have seen a lot of talking points really when it comes to investments in cryptocurrency, and especially Bitcoin. Now, we've seen bigger companies also investing in that, and news that now actually if you're on PayPal and other platforms as well, you can trade or buy or purchase services in Bitcoin. This morning we ask ourselves the question, is cryptocurrency really taking over, and what will it mean for Bitcoin if governments like China and Kenya get into their own digital currency? All right, let's move away from that. Let's talk about what has been the coronavirus pandemic news as well. Now, yes, we can talk about that, but now the conversation is moved to a new vaccine. Now, Pfizer is coming back again just after Moderna did tell us that the vaccine is 94% effective. Pfizer has come back and said, well, after proper analysis of our data now, we are moving from the 90% to 95% effectiveness of our data. I'm talking about the efficacy of the vaccine. Now let's look at exactly how the markets now have responded to that news again from Pfizer, that yes, as of December, if they get proper approval, that we can be talking about vaccines for COVID-19 starting to be available across the continent, across the world. Let me say that. Now, This one, Asian stocks are poised to end the longest winning run since 1988 as restrictions to cap the pandemic overshadow progress towards a vaccine. Now, Treasury gained. Now, stocks had modest declines across the region. S&P 500 futures fluctuated with the benchmark closing at its sanctional low after New York City shut schools because of rising infections. Pfizer Incorporated advanced saying that its vaccine was 95% effective, paving the way to apply for the first U.S. regulatory authorization for a coronavirus shot within days. Now, this is good news because, as we do know, especially in the U.S. alone, U.S. deaths from the coronavirus surpassed the 250,000 mark. Well, setting a grim milestone as the nation struggles to contain a new surge in the cases. Now, Southern Australia began one of the world's toughest lockdowns, with even outdoor exercise and dog walking banned as the state tries to contain a cluster of COVID-19 infections, which pretty much outlines why conversations about a vaccine right now would make proper sense. Good. Let's come a bit locally now and talk about Safe Border. Yes, we did mention it yesterday, but this morning we want to question their exit. Now, listen. Let's see exactly why this conversation is important, because as you're leaving a market that you've been in 2 years, Nigeria, Uganda, where you've been for 1 year, that's where you say you want to migrate to. Let's look at the border imports into the country before we can actually ask that question as to why they left. Good. 2015 all the way to 2020. And I want you to pick up the data from 2017 to 2019. Well, we do know the reason for 2020. We've had that decline that's actually expected. But now the question is, did they fail with their business model in the country? Did they fail to crack that code when it comes to logistics, especially border riding within the country? Is it a question of, because the biggest statement was the COVID-19 pandemic disruptions to their business, or just the fact that the business plan in the country did not work, especially when it comes to border logistics businesses in the country? That is what we're going to ask. And I want us to look at that data again for motorcycle imports into the country, which is going to point out to one thing. Good. It's been good business from 2017 to 2019. Is that the reason as to why they failed to crack that code? Because when you have a lot of imports into the country, it means that more people are into that business. Over to other news that we're waking up to this morning. Now, other than that, World Bank is now warning you not to be duped into revealing your personal information about your business into what has been a fraudster's move to use RFC, which we do know is a private lending firm, to give you a business loan. They're saying you need to double check some of those websites, because information did come up over the past 1 month of Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed being sort of poised to complain about you, the smaller businesses within the country, not applying for some of these loans. That Facebook post that was flagged as, number one, not legitimate, and number two, you gotta know better. Do not reveal your information unless you have been quite sure that you are talking to an IFC representative. All right, let's talk about Huduma number cards now, which we do know we are going to start getting in the next 2 weeks. Now let's talk about it. They're saying that the first phase is going to target 3 million Kenyans by January and another 5 million in February. Now this is the data that we have from KNBS. 9.6 million Kenyans are yet to list for Huduma number based on that data. Meaning that yes, your ID cards are going to start getting replaced, and that is from ICT Cabinet Secretary Job Mushebu. 20146, that your SMS line at Metropole TVKE, across all your social media platforms at Kia Gesimba Nasma_. Our 2 hours begin right now. Good morning. This is Business AM News. Now, 11 more people have succumbed to COVID-19, raising the country's death toll to 1,313. According to the Ministry of Health, 957 people have also tested positive for COVID-19 from 6,309 samples tested in the last 24 hours, raising the country's tally to 72,686. Now, 2,616 patients have recovered from the disease, 2,434 from home-based care, while 182 from various health facilities. Lack of adequate water supply remains a challenge in the country, hampering Kenya's fight against COVID-19 pandemic. According to an InfoTrack research survey on the unending water crisis in Kenya amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, 60% of vulnerable residents in Nairobi have no piped and running water yet. The survey indicates that 89% of Kenyans have increased the use of water after COVID-19 outbreak. Now, the survey further points to the fact that 25% of Nairobi residents get running water 1 to 2 times a week, and only 40% say they have piped water in their homes yet. Nairobi County continued to register the highest number of COVID-19 cases. Now, the report, however, indicates that even though Mombasa County has also registered a high number of COVID-19 cases, the county seems to be better off when it comes to access to reliable water, with 64% of the respondents saying that they receive water every day. Other findings indicate that women and girls in the vulnerable communities of the surveyed counties have resorted to innovative ways to cope with the lack of hygiene products due to the COVID-19, with 39% resorting to home-based med soap and 36% resorting to the use of rugs instead of pads. Now, the research equally shows that COVID-19 has impacted behavioral changes positively, improving sanitation, decreasing waterborne diseases, and increasing knowledge on hygiene. The government has launched an insurance cover with the inclusion of work injury benefits and a group accident cover targeting civil servants and their families. Speaking at the launch, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani said that the insurance cover will also include a comprehensive group life cover that will cater for all causes of death, including death arising from critical illness such as COVID-19. Through the intervention, the government hopes to put a rest to the perennial agitation for better welfare and the rampant strikes that have robbed the public service of vulnerable man-hours. Now, the provisions will be extended to all civil servants and employees of the National Youth Service.
Currently, the National Treasury and Planning pays an annual premium of Kenya shilling 839 million for last expense cover, but has no other cover whatsoever for group life, group personal accident, WIBA, and even a situation like we are being confronted with, like COVID. However, under this new scheme, civil servants and employees of the National Youth Service will for the first time have a comprehensive insurance cover with a total annual premium of Kenya shilling 6 billion and 70 million Kenya shilling per year. It's also my hope that this noble intervention by our government will put to rest the perennial agitation for better welfare and the unfortunate consequence of strikes that draws many man-hours from the public service. We've seen year in, year out, particularly at the climax of every election, we see the Kenyan labor force, mainly in the health sector, now going to strikes, withholding their labor because of additional and better welfare. But since the government has taken actually this proactive measure, I hope we are going to reciprocate.
Let's speak a bit on agriculture, where now the government will need at least 5 billion shillings to revive the cotton industry. Speaking on Metropole Business Centre, Director of Fibre Crop Directorate, Solomon Odera, said that the money will eventually be used to refurbish granaries across the country, among other programs. So far, the government has set aside 260 million shillings that has been spent on cotton seed provision and capacity building. Now, cotton production has witnessed a downward progression over the years. According to statistics from the Fiber Crop Directorate, cotton production currently stands at 5,432 bales, a decline from 2013 when Kenya produced 21,831 bales of cotton.
What currently have out of the 22 ginning factories that we've had in the past, only 4 are operating, and the 4 have a capacity of about 32,000 tons. 32,000. Can I just? Sure. 32,000 bales. And that looked at against, if we were to have all our 22 ginneries up and running and operating, the installed capacity is at about 140,000 bales. So clearly, you can see there's quite a bit of flexibility there. There's space. And then when you look at what our spinners and other processors up the value chain require, this 32,000 is just about 20% of our requirements in terms of our current installed capacity at the spinning level.
Right.
Ugandan motorcycle riding hailing company Safe Border plans to terminate operations in Kenya at the end of the month, rendering hundreds of motorcycle riders and call center operators jobless. In a statement, Safe Border announced that it will cease operations in Kenya from November 27th after only 2 years in the country, citing the negative impact of COVID-19 on its business. Safe Border, however, will continue to operate in Uganda and Nigeria, a market it entered in May this year. The Ugandan firm ventured into the Kenyan market in 2018 with operations in Nairobi expanding to Mombasa last year. And I quote, while Nairobi is seeing some economic recovery from COVID-19, border transportation has been hard hit. And quote, this has meant our business cannot sustainably operate in this environment. And unfortunately, the timeline for a full recovery is not certain. Safe Border, in a statement, said. Now, motorcycle riders are also feeling the pressure of tightened regulations to contain an industry that has largely seen to have gone rogue amidst rising competition that has seen earnings plummet. Motorcycles emerged as a main means of transport in Africa, with a report by Texai Research showing the two-wheeler market in the continent forecast to cross 9 billion by 2021. South Africa, Nigeria and Tanzania are the largest two-wheeler markets in Africa, followed by Kenya, Algeria, Uganda, Egypt, Morocco, Angola and Ethiopia. In Kenya, a task force has come up with a report of the challenges in the sector and a raft of recommendations, some of which operators say will increase their cost of doing business. Well, Metropole TV spoke to logistics specialists, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, George Mboya, who tells us what Safe Border's exit means from the Kenyan transport industry and other players in the subspace. Let's take a look at that.
My interpretation of the Safe Border's exit from the country at the moment could be as a result of COVID pandemic. It could also be internal issues affecting the organization, or it could also be the general world economic downturn that has affected this. But in any way, and for whatever reason, it's going to affect the sector and the employment that the sector has. And remember, transport and logistics sector employs quite a number of people. It will affect people in Kenya in a very major way in terms of employment. Obviously, there is a lot of disruption in the sector by COVID. Remember, logistics supports trade. It's the wheels under which trade runs on. When it is touched, when we cannot operate 24 hours, when we cannot carry a full load, meaning the optimal numbers, above optimal numbers, then efficiency and returns on investments in the sector becomes very low. That affects investors who probably get loans and cannot repay those loans within the times that they have agreed. It therefore means that more and more businesses are going to re-strategize to see how well this can be done. I think the government should come up with ideas like investing more. Economic stimulus package that has been given to other areas is one way of looking at it. There are other ways of looking at it. Creating more order in the city, allowing 24-hour operations, but following the protocols laid down by the Ministry of Health can still be done side by side. But of course, we cannot throw caution to the wind. We must first of all talk safety first and safety always, then be able to operate so that the investors in this sector can reap what they have put in terms of investment. But we must emphasize and we must encourage the government to lead by putting in a lot more resources in the sector, not to leave the private sector alone. The fact that COVID-19 is not reducing numbers as we may have expected, I can say that we expect a lot of organizations to either scale down or close completely if they cannot reap their initial capital outlay and investment, or we may have departures of organizations that have invested from elsewhere, like Safe Border. We only hope that this does not continue in this manner, because I foresee a lot of effects, particularly in the sector.
Well, Kenya police have arrested 3 medical officers who are key suspects in child trafficking and part of a larger organized scheme operating in Nairobi. Through a statement, Inspector General of Police Hilary Muthaiga said that the operation involves officers who colluded with child smugglers to traffic children in local public hospitals and within homes. Muthaiga has furthermore directed all county commissioners to work with local children's officers and security agencies to investigate child trafficking issues in local public and private hospitals within their localities. Now, this report comes barely a week after an expose by BBC's Africa Eye unearthed a child trafficking ring whereby vulnerable women are being preyed on in Nairobi to enhance a thriving black market for babies. Against this, Labour and Social Protection CS Simon Chergui has assured the country that anybody found guilty of such actions will face the full force of the law, and has urged Kenyans to report any case of child violation to the identified.
Approved the new Children's Act 2020, which speaks to issues of adoption, guardianship, fostership, children institutions, and including violence against children. All these have been defined in this landmark bill, and these are some of the issues that have been collected through a lot of public participation and experiences that we have gained over time.
Old Mutual Life Assurance Company and Faulu Insurance Agency have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Kenya Alliance of Resident Associations to provide financial solutions that are beneficial to residents' associations. Now, the collaboration seeks to provide a framework for financial collaboration as well as literacy programs to be delivered through webinars and articles. Now, the Kenya Alliance of Resident Associations currently has 1,300 resident associations in Kenya with over 250,000 members across the country. This even as Faulu Microfinance Bank plans to leverage on the collaboration to enlist at least 100,000 members from the current network within the first 6 months to its automated bank assurance system. Now, the firm launched Bank Assurance, a product involving the sale of insurance products and services through banks and microfinance institutions in February this year at a cost of 20 million shillings.
Today we are celebrating the launch of the first product, which is a digital last expense. This product, we are going to be able to access it through on a digital platform that will allow you to be able to buy these various policies that I've talked about. The bank did launch made a major investment on having a robust platform to drive this bank assurance business. We'll teach our people how to save, and will allow also the members of the association to be able to take advantage of these opportunities that are in the bank.
Solutions that we are happy to discuss as part of this arrangement is, of course, savings products. And when I talk about savings here, savings cuts across many areas. So we've got products that speaks into what I would call targeted savings, be it savings for children education, be it savings for setting up a business.
We expect that based on this MOU, we are going to continuously engage on discussions and explore opportunities that can be able to respond to some of the needs that we are coming up with as resident association, and even for the society.
Credit Bank PLC, in partnership with Visa, has announced that the launch of a multi-currency prepaid card dubbed the Connect Prepaid Card, the contactless touch and go card, will provide consumers with an alternative banking card for safe and secure, seamless electronic transactions like shopping, fueling and pay for services anywhere in the world. Now, the card, which is a chip and PIN enabled, will not require a bank account to use, as it's reloadable either via mobile banking, M-Pesa, money transfer, checks or over the counter. The Connect Prepaid Card will be available in two types: the classic card-based, suited for local transactions and can be topped up with a Kenyan shilling, and the Platinum Card, which is multi-currency and can be loaded with up to 4 currencies: Kenyan shillings, USD, GBP and Euro.
To transform the socio-economic welfare of the people by offering innovative financial solutions. Our loan today is informed, and it is what we dub the Connect Prepaid Card. And this really adds another feather to our cap. Made for convenience, especially at a time when everybody is looking to manage their budgets and curtail expenditure, the prepaid card offers an ideal solution.
The Connect Prepaid Cards allow customers to load funds and make payments at any Visa merchant countrywide. Consumers can also make online payments on e-commerce platforms. The card will open up the global market for customers when they travel, giving them access to over 61 million merchants in over 200 countries through the Visa Global Network.
Well, that story marks the end of our Metropol's Business AM News this morning. Let's take a quick shift to what were the biggest losers yesterday as we closed the trading hours at our local booths. And this would be pretty much assigned to what is going on in the country right now as regards the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, Nation Media is among those new entrants from yesterday's trading session. It's negative 3.01% in their standing. Home Africa Limited and Flame Tree Group really recording those top 5 biggest losers yesterday in terms of percentages standings. But Home Africa was among the biggest with a 9.76 reduction in their standing. Well, let's take a short break here on Business AM. Once we come back, more business